nsfw. What's the most fucked up thing your country has done? Probably Congo. A Belgian, eh? Mind if I give you a hand? Holocaust. That one is hard to beat. IIRC. Stalin killed twice as many people as Hitler and Mao killed twice as many people as Stalin. There seems to be no shortage, throughout history, of murdering fuckheads. We exported Tim Hortons to other countries. Canada. We used to tie Indians to cannons and gamble on how high the head would go when the cannon fired. This was known as blowing the gun. I'm from the UK. That's kinda like a more technologically advanced version of what Romans used to do to Christians. Amongst other things, they fire them from catapults. Humans are the worst. German. Here. I don't think I have to elaborate further. To elaborate further. Repressed the indigenous culture, confiscated their land, made their language illegal. Australia. New Zealand. Someone in South America. Yeah, one of them. Historically or lately. 1. Killed a 13-year-old child labor protester. 2. Also denied justice and resources to an ex-province. Being British, we've committed more atrocities than there are cups of tea being drank this second on this island. My guess would be how it has treated and continues to treat our indigenous population. I'm gonna guess you're Aussie too. I agree with that statement 100%. I am actually Canadian. Canada. When the native bands asked for help with SARS, the government sent free body bags. Canada still invades native reserves frequently, completely disregarding the fact that the native reserves are technically foreign countries. Do you have a source on them not being part of Canada? I know they have a different set of laws and are governed differently, but last I checked, they were still part of Canada. India. Some people claimed cow cures coronavirus and then had a massive street party drinking that. Wait, cow doesn't cure corona. Sips cup of cow piss. The US. How much time you got? Double that. For the British. The sun never set on the British Empire because God didn't trust him in the dark. Well, the UK. Literally everything. Well, England mainly. We're pretty awful. Slave trade and colonizing Indonesia. Yes, I am Dutch MAKKER. Canada. Residential schools. Declaring war on a superpower to prolong its own dying regime, while resourceless and in crisis, damning hundreds of untrained kids to die hungry and cold, fighting a clearly superior enemy in every aspect. But hey, at least our Air Force did a good job. Iraq. Germany. One of the leading nations in racial research once. I'd say the treatment of the Sami, Roma and the Finns is worse. Or maybe the forced sterilization of mentally and physically disabled women. A couple genocides, some internment camps, and ruined some countries by replacing their leaders. After the fall of communism, in 1989, the vice president of the Communist Party and his people, aka the second line from the party, took the power right after the president was executed. He quickly took control of the media. It was pretty easy. There was only one television program back then available, and they were spreading propaganda for them. He formed a party called the National Salvation Front. Initially they said they won't participate in the elections and they are only there temporarily to make the transition easier. The historic parties came back to life in January 1990 with their leaders, old people but good people, all of them. The date for the election was set on the 20th of May. However, in February, FSN changed their mind and announced that they will participate in the election, which caused massive protests around the country, because they were basically communists with a different name. However, they had one thing: the support of the working class and the old people. The whole media and the great majority was with them. The protesters were young people, students who wanted to truly live in a democratic country, not to return in communism. They protested, but they were ridiculized and insulted by the acting government and the president. On the election day, FSN wins 66% of the parliament and its leader wins the presidential elections with 85%. After the election, protests continued, and on the 13th of June, the president called the miners and the special forces to come and clear the streets from the protesters. The worst days in the last hundreds of years were the 13th to the 15th of June 1990. Miners with the police came and killed everything in their way and destroyed the universities, the opposition parties' buildings, everything, and hundreds or thousands of people have died unofficially and many were left disfigured for life. It was called the 1990 Minariade. This will probably get buried, but it is incredibly fucked up, and just because we wanted not to be ruled by communists after almost 50 years. Romania, my homeland, currently has LGBT-free zones. Like, you know those signs where you cross a state and it says "Welcome to Oregon" or whatever? It's like that, but it says LGBT-free zone underneath. Where is that? Sorry, I just can't. Sniff. My country created Lego. I am so sorry to all the feet out there whom have felt the wrath of Lego. Residential schools. I'm English. Where do I begin? Involvement in countries' politics that don't concern us whatsoever. Probably hiding gold and refusing many Jews into our country. Recently, handling coronavirus. We have within the top 5 most cases in the world, and relative to our population the second most. It took over 1,000 cases for them to consider closing schools. And get this, they won't test anyone who ain't immunosuppressed or elderly, even children or adults showing strong symptoms. They also are focusing crazily on the economic impact for a country with a very strong economy that probably won't take a hit at all, and not at all on the people. The stolen generation. $10,000 just for hospital bills. I was going to say USA, but the bills there aren't that low. Committed genocide and actually managed to 100% wipe out the target group. Residential schools. Take indigenous children away from their tribes and families and educate, or beat, the native out of them. What about losing a war and collaborating with way more than they asked and then still claiming to be a great democracy and designated as a winner with such arrogance that any country will joke about us being cowards today? My baguette is hurting. You know how Germany had that Jew up? Yeah, that Amritza massacre. Does World War II count? Residential schools and the 60s scoop. First thing that comes to mind is the discrimination against the Sami. Also, Jews were banned from the country for over 35 years or something. It didn't have much of a human cost, but it was kinda fucked up. Second World War. I'm British, so I'm gonna cheat slightly and go for colonizing the whole world. If I had to narrow it down, probably when we started an opioid crisis in China to boost the tea industry. Force people to stay at home because of a pandemic, but at the same time allowing us to commute to work. Do you want chronologically or alphabetical? Not locked everyone in their houses Italy style despite coronavirus figures tracking similarly. UK. The stolen generation. Tempted to whitewash the indigenous population by breeding out the black. And stealing numerous half-settler, half-indigenous children from their mixed parents and raising them like typical settler children even though they'd never be seen as equal. Edit. One of the most fucked up. Historically, going Viking modern age, Norwegianization of Sami, Cabins, residential schools, Canada, residential schools, not closing down the entire country during a global pandemic when we've been warned about it for literal months. As an Englishman, probably changing the brown bin collection to bi-weekly, treated our native folk horribly, experimented on them, took away their right to speak their language, forced them from their parents, and not letting them vote until 1821. Probably one of the worst things my country has done that I have been thought about at least. Raped and pillaged our way around the globe for 3 centuries. Becoming toilet paper hoarders, attacking the Golden Temple, along with killing many innocent Sikhs. It's responsible for both world wars. American Sioux. A lot. Military dictatorship from 1964 until 1985. Thousands dead, tortured, missing. And there are people that call this period of time a revolution. Well, we invented fascism. WW1, WW2, killing the heroes. Holocaust. Yay. As a German. Oh boy, where do I start? There was a time when we sell bird and everything was good. And then we had a war with Spain for the bird. Not sure the exact year, but in Canada we shipped out and enslaved the Japanese people. I can't believe that this is part of our history. No wonder I never learned about it in history class. Chile. There are so much things to talk about. All started in 1973 to 2020. Child labor. I guess we shot down our own chopper during the Independence War to show everyone that we know how to shoot down choppers. Ask GL. But we are still at the beginning. Come back in a few weeks, if you're still alive then. Ceterum censeo, unit libertatum, esse delendum. After the fall of communism, some of the amoebas that were in the ex-communist party still got to rule the country in democratic parties, and young people and students came to the capital and protested against the new rule. Miners from all around the country were called in and used to suppress the revolutionaries. Lots of young people got beat to a pulp, resulting in lots of deaths. The discovery of our land was followed by genocide and slavery. Hard to tell the Brits did so much to hurt any people living on the land that belonged to Britain. Elected a rapist and murderer as president. Guess what country? Let a corrupt go free after he allowed trillions of rands to go missing. Rule over a quarter of the globe, commit multiple genocides and steal anything of value or cultural significance for about 100 years. Oh, and start the whole Arab-Israeli conflict. I'm pretty sure that's classified, but I'll bet that it involves overthrowing a popularly elected government to install a right-wing dictator that has death squads, tortures its people, and embezzles tons of money from the public coffers. Edit. Or slavery. Or our treatment of our indigenous population. Rampaging the indigenous and black people and participating in the Triple Alliance War. Edit. I forgot the Noche de los Lorpeces, or Pencils Night in English. A bunch of underage kids were protesting one night for something during the time the military ruled the country, and they all went missing over Indians by stealing their land and massacring innocent people. Looking at you, Spaintids and Britholes. I'm American, by the way. We've done the same thing. Looking at you, wagontards. Selling all of our advanced military equipment and closing our one and only nuclear power plant, because it was created by a political enemy, halting the country's progress by 20 years. America, the Vietnam War. Canada with their genocide schools that lasted over 100 years until the 90s, where they would steal children from their homes and verbally, emotionally, physically, and sexually abuse them for 10 months of the year in an attempt to kill the culture of the indigenous peoples. Rupert Murdoch was born in my country. He was also a citizen of my country before 1985, institutionally committed genocide against our native population through Last One Closed Inc. 91.